and welcome to the Division 2 race for the Abu Dhabi Grand Prix for Zoom Racing League. I'm excited. We got a 5-way title fight today. Ethan Patel, Ranger, Pylon, all the big names at an awesome track. One where Max Verstappen won his first World Drivers' Championship. So I'm excited. Let's take a look at the track real quick. 3.451 miles. So not too long, not too short. 2 DRS detection zones. And if we take a look at it, 21 turns to make your move. It's a tough track. It's a dangerous track, but it's a fun track. So we take a look at the standings real fast. What do you think of those, Buffalo? What do you think of those standings?
OG, how are you, man? Really excited to be here. Standings are tight. We essentially have a 5-way race at the top. Ethan Patel separated by only 21 points to the 5th place Razor. In the middle, we have Ranger, Sid, and Pylon. And this is going to be a key race here in the Drivers' Championship. We have a really high-level, difficult track. There's going to be some action. There's going to be some safety cars. So a lot of interesting ways this lineup can shuffle up here. Really excited to see what we get.
Yeah, I'm super excited. And it's not just tight right at the top. You know, if you look in those bottom 10 as well, you got Dominman, Barnsley, Zebra Strike, Snoop Francis. They're all together within about a 5-point gap. Peter right there, Israel right there. And then you look at the bottom again, Buzzgod and Robot, they're fighting. And then Lenny and NBA, they're neck and neck as well, as they're the newcomers right now. So it's exciting. You know, we got fights for position all throughout the field, and I'm really excited today.
Yeah, it's just like IRL F1, man. I mean, you got, as we get qualifying here underway, you got kind of tiers of people that are competing, right? And scoring points and kind of escalating above and out of your tier, especially as we close out one season of Division 2 and start to prep for the next season in a few weeks, driving out in January. These points are going to mean a lot to these guys. And the difference between 9th, 10th, 11th is really going to hopefully carry momentum here into the next season.
Sorry about that. If you're a viewer, I have some audio difficulties in the race, but we're back now. But yeah, no doubt, it's going to be exciting for everybody. And we're on board right now with Brian Hackman. I mentioned to Buffalo earlier, in practice this week, Brian was showing quite a bit of pace, so I'm expecting him to be, up the order from where he usually is. And that's the case for a lot of guys. Pylon, you have any dark horses you think are going to show out this weekend compared to others?
Yeah, I got a couple. Prison Mike is someone who's been absent past couple weeks for some things, and he's got a ton of pace. He joined D2 a little bit late after a brief stint in D3, so kind of in midway of the leaderboard just because he hasn't raced as much. I'm looking for him to race out there in the front, and I think right now, OG, you can't really bet against Hunte. I mean, he was dominant in Jeddah last week, showed incredible defense, incredible pace. He's going to be one to watch for me as well.
Yeah, no, you're right on about that, Hunte. After his return, he retired last season. He bowed out a champion, constructor champion with our own PBJ. And you thought he might be done. He didn't hang up the helmet for too long though. He's back, and he's back with a vengeance. These last 2 races, he's absolutely been killing it. Podium and a win. So I'm excited for him.
You also see here, got some drivers here getting ready to go on their hot laps, I believe. I'm on with Buzzgod.
I'm currently on with Brian Hackman. I'm hoping to see throughout the field about 135s. 135, if we get into the 134s, which that could definitely happen, I'll be not pleasantly surprised, but I'll be excited to see that. I'm expecting more 135s than 134s this week, but we got fast drivers in Division 2, so you can't count them out for anything.
Yeah, Prison Mike here, the only one starting on a medium tire. Could be hopeful, like you said, a lot of pace here. Qualifying up top on the mediums might be a tall feat.
Yeah, the tire degradation here is quite rough, so you got to think he's just trying to extend that first tire stint as long as you can. Last night in our Division 3 race, we had guys pitting for new tires around lap 5 or 6. NBA puts it on provisional pole 37.2. That time's going to drop super fast from the rest of the field. But it's not a bad banker lap at all. As Racer immediately goes 136.1, so he's getting close to those 135s. Brian Hackman goes 136.5, and we'll hop on board with Buzzgod. Zebra Strike goes 136.2, and we're on board with Buzzgod right now as he's coming in through the 3rd sector. But yeah, the tire degradation around here can be pretty brutal, and you gotta wonder if those mediums will work, or if you'll get an early safety cars and those soft runners will win out in the end. Because it only puts in
Yeah.
P4.
Two-stop is going to be tough here. And again, the safety cars will, of course, affect the strategy. But, I don't know if some of the guys towards the back will try to do like a medium-hard type strategy to maybe gain some time that way. But, yeah, it could be rough on tires. You have to... The exits at a lot of these silk corners is so crucial to maintaining pace that I think keeping tire wear to a minimum is going to be a challenge.
Yeah, I'd be very surprised if we saw any um, one stops in this race. It's hard to do that, but these guys, they're super talented. If anyone can do it, they could do it. So as we fill out the top 10, first 10 drivers to put up a time. Razor on provisional pole, 136.1. Zebra right behind him with a 0.2. A little bit of a gap after position 2 with Brian Hackman, 136.5, followed by Prison Mike, 136.8, and then 9. And then those guys are all of the order, just 1/10 from another, all the way down to Mr. Robot in P10. As Alex and Snoop Francis seem to have retired from the session. I don't know if there was a crash, an issue, or there had to have been.
Could have been a collision or something taking them both out. I hope that's not the case.
I mean, we won't be able to see until the replay later. But yeah, I hope not, because if you're those two guys, you don't want to start from the back like it's looking like they most likely will.
Something else interesting here too, we see Drip in P6. Drip had a great pace in Jeddah last week and unfortunately DNF towards the end of the race, but showing strongly early so far as the first lap times are getting established.
Yeah, Drip, he describes it as a case of the drips when he DNFs. Unfortunately for him, last week it was of no fault to his own. He just DNF'd. He just got a case of the drips, but we're hoping to turn that bad dry spell around. And hoping to finally get some good points finishes on the board. As Marino just set a fastest Sector 1. And we're going to stay on board with him for the rest of his hot lap.
OG, I'm not sure if you mentioned it, but Marino is actually subbing in for Sid this week. Sid unable to make it. Marino, of course, races for my team, Alfa Romeo, in D3, and he's got a ton of pace for D3. So I'm not sure how this is going to affect the Constructors' Championships because Alfa Romeo is using a lower driving division. They may get to use full points, if I'm not mistaken, for this race because we're keeping it in the team.
Yeah, I believe he will be able to get full points as he is moving up from D3. But like you said, he's no ordinary D3 driver. He has tremendous pace on almost every track we do. And I expect that trend to continue here in Abu Dhabi. But you mentioned the Constructors, but for the Drivers' Championship, that changes a lot. Sid's currently in P4, 1 point behind P3, and 3 points behind P2 in the Drivers' Championship. And so that shakes things up quite a bit as Razor can sneak above him, and Pylon and Ranger and Ethan can try to build more of a gap from Sid.
Yeah, it's definitely going to have an impact too on the things, right? And you see Pylon 2 red hot right below, actually, sorry, tied with Sid in the driver's standings. And he came out with a good race last week, as did Razor. So the McLarens are hot going in, kind of an inopportune time for Sid to miss a week.
And I'm expecting Razor to have quite the weekend. He's on provisional pole right now, and in that Division 2 race, he had a race. But in the Division 1 race, which is where all the top dogs are, he showed out and actually got a podium. And so, he's up there with the best of the best in terms of Zoom Racing League. And, when this guy catches on fire, when he gains the confidence, I don't know how many people there are out there that could rival him.
Pylon Hunte and Cooler Peter still yet to set a time here and qualify. Now, I saw Hunte may have disconnected earlier. Are these guys usually late runners? These guys usually like to get a run in early, or maybe they invalidated a couple times. Didn't quite see it.
It's very hard with this short qualifying, if you invalidate 2 laps, you're really, really etching close for time. Um, and so you really got to try to get a safe banker lap in first. I fall victim to that a lot. Uh, Last week, I failed to invalidate a total of 6 laps. I think I didn't get a single lap on the board. And that's no unity. You can't start from the back. But it's hard with only 18 minutes for qualifying session. You did mention it. Hunte was having a little bit of technical difficulties earlier, and just again, he's just left the session. Um, and so that's not good. He's going to probably most likely be starting from the back, and just not what you want to see.
Yeah, hard track to pass on for sure. So qualifying is essential. We got times ranging from already the 136 ones and really 1 second pretty much separating in the top 10. So very close pace here early on in D2.
Yeah, these guys, the field is tight. You see it in the drivers' championship. They have super tight battles all throughout, 1 through 5, 5 through 10, 10 through 15, 15 through 20, all in their own little subsections, fighting each other. But don't let that confuse you a little bit. Any driver from the top 15, maybe even the top 20, could rival another driver in the top 5. All these guys, if they're on form, can battle each other on any racetrack on any given day, really. As Zebra Strike puts it on provisional pole 135.7. So that's what I was more expecting to see.
Wow.
In the mid 135s, and with 7 minutes to go, I think we'll start seeing a lot of those times drop.
Lenny, a newcomer on the Haas team, already setting 136.4s, currently in P4. So he's looking to make his first D2 race something to remember. Starting off pretty well so far.
It is. Speaking of starting off well, Razor was on a flyer, and his lap ended rather poorly as he invalidated. He was on a hot lap, looking to stick it in the 135s, looking to stick it on pole. Fortunately, couldn't get it. He's going into the pits for new tires. We'll hop on board with Marino, your teammate, and he's going to dive into the pits as well as he invalidated as well. So, track limits here, it can be kind of hard.
Yeah, I'm wondering, we didn't see too many track limit penalties in the D3 race. There were a couple repeat performers, but it wasn't, kind of like Jeddah where almost the entire field had at least 1 or 2 black and white flags. But curious to see how many culprits we find in the D2 race this year, right? Because we mentioned last week, sometimes these guys are pushing the cars a little bit more to the limit. So sometimes you see more incidents, more track limits, simply because the margin of error is razor thin.
Yeah, you're right on about that. These guys, especially in qualifying, they're probably going to get a little bit more track limits than the D3 guys, just because they're on the limit, they're on the edge, quite a bit more than most of us in Division 3. They know how to get the best out of their car. And to get the best out of the track. And sometimes when you're riding that edge, it's easy to just slip on over just a tiny bit, and that's what some of these drivers are doing right now.
Pylon on a heater here?
Let's check. I believe he's on a hot lap right now as he's coming down through the first DRS straight. Depending on your setup, you can gain a lot or lose a lot of time here. I think most people are running quite high wings, 9, 9.9, 7.9, 9.7. But it'll be interesting to see if anyone pulls out any weird setup tricks and tries to get a ton of gap on the straight and then just try to park the bus in the corners. I'm wondering if anyone's going to do that. As Pylon's coming up to Sector 3. He puts a purple Sector 2. Right on the limit here. Maybe a little bit more throttle out of that one, but still going to be a flyer nonetheless.
Yeah, 1 and 2 are certainly going to be your sectors with the most passing, but I feel like the potential to lose more time is here in Sector 3, right? A lot of slow corners, a lot of times where a poor entry and maybe more importantly a poor exit can really kind of increase your lap times a little bit and set you back.
I apologize to Cole Cummins. I didn't get to see your 135.9, but he's in P2 right now. Spylon comes to the line. Oh, he was on his out lap, but it didn't show in the bottom right there. So, a little bit of a mishap there. I'm going to blame it on Cody's, especially since he set a fastest sector, and he's going to be out of the session.
Oh, he spun out. Oh. Wow.
That's got to be incredibly frustrating. Don't get a set of time. Pylon starting from the back this race. Dominman as well. unfortunately didn't set a time, but we got, what is that, 4 DNFers? 5 if you count Hunte? Oh, Hunte's
4
back, right?
DNFs. Yeah, I'll be honest, I've done that exact same thing that Pylon had done many times. A little bit fast going into that first kind of high-speed corner, really the only high-speed corner really on the track. Kind of just losing and going to the wall. I can't tell you how many times I've done that. He'll be a driver to watch then because he just showed that he's got the pace. So I wonder if we'll see him, kind of start a recovery race early and see how far up the leaderboard he can get.
Starting from the back, you mentioned he's going to be after that recovery race. I'm interested to see if he's going to pull out any weird tire strategies, try to shake up the grid, come the pit stop if he can get more positions off the pits than he normally would. I'm looking forward. Oh, as Hunte does eventually retire from the session, we got 5 DNFers in this qualifying session. Super bizarre. You normally don't see that, but I'm wondering if those back 5, Hunte and Pylon especially, as they're vying for wins, they're vying for championships, if they're gonna have some freaky, weird, bizarre tire strategies.
Yeah, this is huge. I was on board with Hunte when he kind of spun out in that second last corner, lost it, and then that's all she wrote. This is gonna, if you're Ethan Patel, if you're Ranger, if you're Razor, you're maybe breathing a little bit easier right now, knowing that they have such a big hill to climb, and that you can maybe put some points in front of them on the race.
Yeah, but right now it's looking like Zebra Strike and Cole Cummins races. They're the only two in the 135. So you mentioned that newcomer Lenny earlier. He's in P3 right now with the 136, just right outside of that 135 range. Ranger and Razor right behind him to fill out the top 5. Brian Hackman, unfortunately DNF, but he's in P6 right now. And then NBA, Prison Mike, and Marino fill out, as well as Strip, fill out the top 10. And then guys that have a little bit more work to do with 1 minute left in this qualifying session are Josh Barnsley, BuzzGod, Peter, and Mr. Robot. So with 1 minute left, you think this order's going to shake up too
It could,
much?
yeah. I'm on board. Sorry, I'm on board with Josh right now, and I think maybe he has some potential as well as Marino if he can put it together. But other than that, I don't know if it'll shake up too much.
Oh, as Zebra Strike, who was right behind Josh, just spun out right there. Probably a little bit of just a accident through dirty air. But he's on provisional pole. He's trying to extend it just a little bit, but he's got a 2:10 gap to Cole right now, and I think that should be enough.
Yeah, I think that's pretty healthy here too. I'm not sure where Lenny is on the track. I don't even know if he's in a position to try to compete with that. But based on everything here, it looks like Zebra might be starting on pole.
And you got to wonder, Zebra, what he kind of spun out near that first hairpin. As Josh Barnsley, I think when I said a purple sector 2, he spun out in that first hairpin. So you got to wonder if those people that were behind him, if he screwed up possibly their final hot lap.
Could be.
Prison Mike, also your pick for Dark Horse candidate is retired from the session, but with 30 seconds to go, it's not too big of a deal as other drivers started to do that. Josh Barnsley's going to come to the session, and something to kind of worry about is there is an issue currently where if you cross the line after like the session is over, so like now these guys don't have control over their cars, the AI is going to continue putting in laps on those tires. And so even though Josh Barnsley put it on P2 right there, 135.7, right outside of Zebra Strike, his tires are going to be, if the game does not work correctly, his tires are unfortunately going to be about 25% cooked. So you got to hope Cody's does him right here and lets him race with fresher tires than he should have.
Yeah, that would be tough because especially like the softs here, it's almost like now when you're set back like that, you're having to stop twice, but you almost have to strategize like a one stop because your first one's going to be early and you're going to be on almost old softs for the whole time, right? So is he looking at a soft, medium, hard type thing? Or I guess there too, OG, could you do soft, hard?
The hards, I've had some conflicting reports. Some people said they love the hards, and I've heard some people say the hards are worth nothing on this track. So it'll be interesting. I think that one will be more up to driver preference, and see, because those hard tires, they don't deg as fast, and you can maybe push just a little bit more. You won't be as fast, but you may be able to push more than you would be on the mediums, as they'll degrade much faster. As that wraps up the qualifying session, we're in for a great one, Buffalo, don't you think?
I really do. Luckily for Josh, only looks like one extra lap there on these softs, so he's good. But I'm excited. We have a couple recovery races here on the books. Some leaders up top, some leaders at the bottom. I think we're going to see some aggression. I think we're going to see some overtaking. It's going to be exciting.
No doubt about that. Starting from pole position in the Alpine, we got Zebra Strike, followed by the Ferrari of Josh Barnsley. To round out the top three, you got Cole Cummins in the Mercedes right now, which I'm fairly certain that's a mistake. He should be in a Red Bull. And his teammate Ethan Mattel, championship leader, is actually out of the session. Lenny follows P4, Ranger P5. Rounding out the top 10, we got a lot of other drivers. NVA, one of them. Buzzguy, one of them. Prison Mike, Marino, Dominman, Drip. We got a bunch of drivers, bunch of fast drivers. I'm excited to be here. I'm excited to watch this race.
OGD3 started off pretty clean. I know we had some lengthy safety cars kind of later on in the race, but started off pretty clean. And, in fact, I think it was that case last week too. But on the D2 side, I wonder how cleanly they're going to get through, that high-speed corner, turn 1, of course, and then that chicane over, what is that, turn 3 and 4?
Yeah, and it's interesting that you mentioned that because, this grid is a lot different than ones we've previously seen. You got Snoop and Josh, or not Snoop, Zebra and Josh, which is funny. In Brazil, they were inseparable, whether they were in P3 and 4 or 15 and 16. So they're back together, which I love. It's a great storyline. But they're 1 and 2, and they're normally not up there. And then on the flip side, you have people like Hunte and Pylon who are in the back. So these guys are in positions they're not used to necessarily. So you got to wonder if there may be some sort of mistakes, or if Hunte, Pylon, people in the back might get overzealous and try to go for something that may not be there, as they feel like, it may be hard to overtake on this track, and I got to go for it sooner rather than later.
Yeah, I wonder how difficult it would be to kind of build a gap here, right? Because that's what, the pylons and the Huntes have to worry about is, the more time I give them up front, what type of gap are they doing? As, what do we have, 2 disqualified from the formation lap already?
Yeah, it appears there was probably contact between Razor and Brian Hackman, and that's, as far as I know, terrible for the start. The formation lap is needed. It's necessary to warm up those tires. As we look at the AWS predicted pit stop strategy, it is a 2-stop, in some cases a 3-stop, depending if you want to get those extra softs out. But that's just in case there's no safety car or anything. But back to Razor and Brian Hackman, the formation lap is used to warm up those tires, and they're going to be sitting on that grid, and their tires are going to end up freezing cold. So you got to wonder if BuzzGod, NVA, or your 2 Alfa Romeo boys could jump them at the start.
Yeah, we'll see. They're in the mediums as well, but as we kind of saw in the IRL race, the mediums had a little bit better of a jump off the line, right? So we'll see if that's the case here.
Yeah, you got to wonder if that's because, as we've talked about time and time, the tire deck here is rather rough, and, you put them through 3 or 4 laps in qualifying, and then you got to do another warm-up lap as well. And so by the time you get to the line, these tires are already about 5 laps old, and on a track that degrades tires rather fast, I wonder if it is worth it.
Standings here are tight. It's going to be a very interesting start here at the front. Can't wait to get this one underway. OG, what were your thoughts real quick on the IRL race? Are you a Lewis guy? You pulling for Max? What did you think?
I'm kind of in between. I think I like Lewis a little bit more, but I did want to see some new blood get put into that championship. So I was excited to see Max. I guess you could say I was rooting for Max. But if Lewis won, I wasn't going to be upset about that at all. My team is AlphaTauri in Zoom Racing League as well as in real life. And unfortunately, those guys weren't fighting for a championship this year. But they did get P4 and P5, luckily. So
Yeah, good day for AlphaTauri boys. We'll see if Dominman and Drip can duplicate it here.
Lord, I hope so. As we come to the line, 4 lights, 5 lights. It's a long light, and they're off. Zebra Strike gets a good little pull, but Cole Quim is right behind him. Josh Barnsley coming on the inside. Zebra Strike stays ahead. Josh Barnsley stays P2. Cole's going to be right there. Lenny right behind him. Ranger. Zebra Strike pulls away quite nicely. Josh Barnsley still in P2. Cole right behind him. Lenny went off track just there for a second. Brian Hageman makes a move on Razor. Lenny goes down. Ranger goes up. And there's a lot of positions made at the front or at the back. Pylon already up 5 positions right there. As we're going to hop on board with him, he's going after it. 6 positions now. Oh, and he's back. He's battling those 2 AlphaTauri boys right now. We just mentioned them. As Zebra Strike is pulling away, Josh Barnsley right behind him, Cole right behind him. Pylon already up to P13.
Yeah, it looks like Alex may have had a small spin or just kind of lost it a bit. He kind of fell to the rear. Pylon with a great start, and I kind of got concerned. Sometimes when that 5th light drags on a little bit, you almost look for drive-through penalties, see if anyone jumped it, but everyone clean so far.
And as you were mentioning that, Cole Quimmins actually lost 2 positions to Ranger and Lenny, so I guess he got a bad exit out of that little chicane coming out of Sector 2. He's down to P5 after what seemed like a great start. Pylon already up to P11.
Very hard to gain positions in Sector 3, but very easy to lose them. A lot of slow corners, a lot of crucial exits.
You know, you hit the nail on the coffin right there. Like, that's just, yeah, super hard to gain track position there, but so easy to lose it. So we hop on board with it. We're going to look at the tires right now. We got a lot of medium runners as Pylon's already back into P8. So he had an absolute amazing lap, P7. And I think, you know, he's coming after the win tonight. You know, going from P20 to P7 in 1 lap. That's amazing.
Yeah, he's already up 11 places so far. In fact, I think he already overtook his teammate Razor. That's just outstanding pace. He's over there on, I believe he's on the mediums too, right? Pylon in a great position to compete early for the win. Looks like we already have our first VSC.
Yep. So these guys are going to have to slow down. And we saw some guys going to the pits. Snoop Francis already DNF'd. So that's reminiscent of last night. We had Leaf Says, who DNF'd on lap 2. Super unfortunate. You know, you train all week. You're working hard in practice. And then to go out in the first couple laps is just, you hate to see it.
Yeah, it's disheartening and unfortunate for real. Looks like, so Snoop was in that Red Bull, right? So for today, looks like Cole Cummins was supposed to be Red Bull, and Snoop, of course, would be the Mercedes. So yeah, they were switched kind of for reference for the rest of the stream.
Yep, so we're just going to go ahead and say not ideal for the Mercedes team constructor-wise, as they're fighting to get back into it. Right now it's the McLaren and your Alfa Romeo fighting for P1 and P2 in the constructors. But we're back as Pylon. His next target is NVA. He won't be able to make too many positions. He won't be able to make a position up in this sector right now, but he's going to be looking down that back straight. And, you know, we mentioned in qualifying that place where a couple drivers kind of threw off. DRS is enabled, so Pylon should be able to capture NVA on that DRS straight. But you mentioned in that little high-speed turn, it's easy to go off. And, you know, some of these guys, they might be scared of that. And this is where I think Pylon will make the difference. He's going to have that throttle a lot harder down than other drivers. He might be able to make quite the distance on this high-speed turn.
Yeah, for real. You know, I'm interested to see, too, how these corners kind of affect the formation of DRS trains. We saw tons of them in Jeddah, right? That was almost the name of the game. I wonder if it's going to be different here. It might be really hard to stick within DRS range of people you don't quite have the pace as. Is someone just spun out? Who's that, Deminman?
It may have been, if we're going to go on to Demin right now. Yeah, he looks like he's struggling right now. He's out of the battles he was in. He's not out of the race. But in the meantime, Pylon passed NVA during that DRS straight. Now he's up to Cole, who Cole, you know, looked like he was having a great first lap, and he unfortunately lost 2 positions just in that corner that they just went through to, as Ranger's going to pass Josh Barnsley. Josh Barnsley's going to be on his gearbox slower through Sector 3, but it's hard to make it stick through there. And so Zebra Strike still in the lead by about 1.5 seconds, but Ranger, your new position 2 right now. Josh Barnsley still holding on to P3, and Lenny is about 2 seconds off of that. So right now, your top 3 are about in their own little race right now. Really just your top, just 2 and 3, as Zebra Strike's pulling away ever so slightly, getting to that 2-second gap.
Nice battle turning up here between Ranger and Josh. They both have incredible pace, and once these guys come around to that high speed corner, some DRS zones, you might see some shuffling.
Zebra Strike puts in a 140. Ranger puts in a 139. So it may not be over yet for Zebra Strike. Ranger's going to be looking to hunt him down. I hope to see it, as Josh Barnsley will have DRS on Ranger on this next straight, and he's right on his tail right now.
Yeah, he is. The entry and exit coming out of this turn is just going to be so crucial. It's so challenging, right? A chicane into a hairpin, and then you have to get a great exit to that DRS straight.
Ranger with a slightly better exit, but Josh will have that DRS. And on this straight, it's a long straight, and DRS is so powerful. He's going to pass him with ease, but there will be another DRS straight for Ranger to be able to take it back if given the opportunity.
Yeah, we saw Sergio Perez do that this morning in the race too. Kind of allowed Lewis to get that position, then took it back on the second DRS. I'm not quite sure if Ranger has the pace to duplicate that.
I don't think so. Josh, it appeared that Josh had quite the better exit out of that chicane over Ranger, and so he's going to have to wait until the next DRS. He's going to have to nail Sector 3 and then get him on that next DRS. As Pylon did, as we were watching Josh and Ranger, Pylon did pass Cole, and now he's on to Lenny, and Pylon is just storming through the field right now. He's got my vote for driver of the day right now. I know it's early in the race, but he's up tons of positions. Up 13.
Yeah, I think this is a dream start for Pylon, right? I mean, you're in the back, but you get to start on mediums. You're already in P5 here in lap 4 with incredible pace. I mean, I think he's in the best position he could hope being.
Yeah, no doubt about that. As he's going through the field, and because he's started from the back, every guy he's passed, he's gotten DRS from one guy and then DRS from the next guy, and so he's really just being pulled along. He's not having to abuse his tires too much, and he's on those mediums, so he's a big winner right now. As I believe, who's that, Brian Hackman? No, Josh Barnsley going down. He spun out, so from P3 potential podium to potential just P10, as Drip is now ahead of him. After a great first 4 laps, the 5th lap strikes, and Josh Barnsley is unfortunately down into P10.
If he got out of that without any damage, and it doesn't look like he may have, there's still plenty of time here for safety cars. I would still look for Josh to come in maybe towards the top 5, because he showed a lot of pace in qualifying, and I think he's got, he's a veteran, right? So I think he's got the composure to recover from that, adhere to his strategy and make up those paces.
Yeah, but it's not what we want to see, especially because, as Josh spun out, Brian Hackman also spun out, who was my dark horse vote. Oh, as Pylon experienced a little bit of dirty air going with Ranger. Pylon's up into P3 right now.
Wow.
But both Ferraris spun out in that Sector 1, and so they're looking for now a recovery drive. But Pylon P3, that's incredible.
Yeah, he's putting on a clinic right now, and he's already in DRS range of Ranger.
Yeah, he's looking to strike. Zebra Strike is 4 seconds clear of them right now, though, so he's in another world. He's trying to build that gap to Ranger and Pylon as fast as he can get, because he's on those softs, Pylon's on the medium, so he's going to be able to potentially do the overcut.
Yeah, so that's something we were looking at towards, it doesn't really apply to Pylon anymore, but the guys that were in championship contention that started towards the bottom.
As NVA just spun out right in front of your teammate Marino right there, right on that high-speed turn. You mentioned that, that happens a lot. NVA just hit the wall. Is fortunate to stay in the race. Sorry about that, though. As Pylon also spun out, had a terrible exit in the hairpin, so we're seeing, it's a low-grip track, and we're seeing drivers just come flying, spinning out of everywhere. Fortunately, it looked like no damage to Pylon, but after what was seemingly a great start, he's still up into P7, so great from where he was, but, we're seeing drivers slide all over the place right now.
Yeah, that's going to shake them up a little bit. There's always that turning point, right, where you start to lose a little bit of grip. It's always before Jeff says, right? He's always a little late on the radio there, but I think we're starting to see it now. I'm surprised we're seeing him in mediums already. Maybe it was just got on the throttle a little too quick, but, Pylon on 5-level mediums should still have a little life in them.
And I'm wondering if, as we saw him absolutely storm to the field as he's sliding all over the place right now, if he was pushing way too hard and his tires just got way too hot, way too fast, faster than he was expecting. and so he just wasn't able to have the grip that he was expecting just because tires were so hot. Is Josh Barnsley down to P14 now? And Lenny up into P2 as Ranger dives into the pits at only lap 7. He saw those other guys sliding around. He's like, I'm not going to take any chances. Give me my fresh set right now. But, you know, Pylon's still not a big loser out of this. Unfortunately, he's no longer in P2, but he is up however many positions from the start. What was it, 14? 12.
Yeah, something like that. Plenty of time too. He's also got the fastest lap by like 3/10. So, you know, he's showing incredible pace already. We'll have to get through that 3-second penalty, but you know what Zebra's showing now too is that, you know, the penalty ability to kind of build a gap. So it looks like he's got a 6-second gap already on Lenny. And you know, if Pylon was still up there, you could maybe say it would be 3 or 4, but you know, the potential for the quick guys to separate themselves is certainly there.
We may see our first, not necessarily weird strategy call, but interesting one as Mr. Robot put on the hards. You got to wonder if he's trying to go to the end on these. What do you think?
Yeah, maybe. I mean, you know, right now he's towards the bottom, so maybe he's thinking that he can make up some time by making it a one stop and trying to keep it. But I just think that the presence of VSEVs or full safety cars could, you know, that could be interesting.
I agree wholeheartedly. And your teammate Marino, he's in a McLaren sandwich right now. It's Razor's P4, Marino's P5, and Pylon is P6. And you know, you want Pylon. Pylon's going to be wanting to take care of Marino as fast as he can, so Razor and Pylon can create like a little DRS train switch back between the two and just work their way back up into those top 3 positions, as Razor's already back into the top 3.
I think that Zebra just went in for what I'm thinking is his first stop. First of 2. We'll see what he comes out on.
Coming out on the mediums. So he'll have another stop round lap 19, 18-ish. That is the predicted, you know, of course, safety car, as you mentioned just a little bit earlier. Could definitely throw a wrench in his plans. But it'll be interesting to see when the other drivers come into pit. You know, Lenny, the newcomer, up into P1. He's got a 2-second gap on Cole. And those top 3 right now all have to pit, I mean, relatively soon. Marino and Pylon and Drip also do, but they're on the medium, so they can go to about lap 13 or so. These guys, the life on those tires is starting to come to an end here at lap 7.
Yeah, it is here too. You can see even for the medium guys, although they're starting a little DRS train here. Marino within a half-second of Razor and Pylon within a half-second of Marino, so might see some overtaking in 3, 4, 5 too. Not sure what type of defending Razor's capable of doing on those old softs.
And another guy I think we should look out for, you mentioned him earlier in the race. You know, he didn't have quite the start that Pylon did, but he did start in the same position. Hunte, he's up about, what is that, 9 positions? 10 positions from where he started. And, you know, this is a long race. Anything could happen. And he's playing the long game right now.
Yeah, it's almost like, you know, he said he's up 9 places, right? But it was almost, we were paying attention to it because Pylon was up 15
yeah,
at
exactly,
one point. But
exactly.
very quietly, Hunte has made himself up to the middle of the pack and probably in a position to take some few more.
As Ranger puts it, 139.1, which is super fast. I think, you know, the fastest lap in our race, barring Ludwig, was about 140, 139 high. And so they're already about a second down from our laps, and we got 20 laps to go, so their fuel loads are still high. These guys are absolutely flying right now.
Yeah, definitely gonna see those lap times improve. Looks like I think may have missed it. Did Lenny come in for his stop?
Yeah, Lenny did come into the stop. He came out P10, so he came out behind Ranger and behind Zebra Strike by quite a big margin. And I've been noticing on that sector too, you know, Razor, Marino, and Pylon, they've created a bit of a DRS for themselves. No one seemed to get close to each other, as Marino's going to dive, or not dive, he's going to peek, take a look at it on that second DRS. But in that first DRS zone, it seems, you know, with these DRS trains, it's kind of hard to actually get any work done.
Yeah, it is, right? Because you got, you know, if you don't get the exit, you have to get a good exit and have DRS, right? You need both to make the pass clean, especially in that second straight too, which is considerably shorter.
I'm wondering if Cole and Razor are going to come in this lap or if they're going to go out just one more.
And I'm on board with Cole now. Nope.
And they're staying out. Wow.
Cole is staying out. Yeah, Razor as well.
Which is interesting to me because, you know, Zebra Strike is now only within 5 seconds of the leader. And so he's going to, once these guys pit, he's just going to have a crazy lead to the rest of the field.
Yeah, we've already seen Zebra close the gap a little bit to Pylon, so he's definitely got the pace on those mediums. I wonder if you're Cole or Razor, do you consider a soft to hard strategy and try to make it a two-step that way? They've already gone 10 in these soft tires.
I'm thinking that that might be the play because, but I just don't know, because you know the threat of a safety car, especially as we've seen so many potential accidents, is Marino. Take a look, no contact between them, safe wheel-to-wheel driving right there between Marino and Pylon. Pylon, did he have the better exit? No, Marino has, no. So they had about the same exit. Pylon still has DRS. They're going to make it down to the second DRS straight. Pylon and Marino going back and forth in this straight. Marino has the inside line. Pylon's going to go for it. They give each other the space. Pylon cuts a little bit of a corner right there, and that allowed Zebra Strike to get right up in them. You know, Pylon may have gotten away with a little bit of a corner cut right there. He is in P3 now, but Marino's going to want to have it back.
Yeah, great racing there too. Really clean. Yeah, just that little bit of a corner cut. But you just mentioned how hard it was to get work done, right? Even if you make the case that that DRS train gained them time on Razor, he's going to pit soon. So it's almost like, you know, just net one space for all of that.
Yeah, net one space as Marino's diving to the pits right there. So the medium runners staying or going in and the soft runners staying out. As Zebra Strike is already within 1 second of Pylon. So in that little battle between Marino and Pylon, that allowed Zebra Strike to gain about 1.5 seconds on them. And so he's absolutely flying right now. He's within almost going to be within a second. Pylon's going to need Razor's DRS, and he's going to need to fly away on this straight. Needs a great exit here.
Looks like a small yellow
as
Haas
Lenny
in
is
sector
out.
one.
Lenny is out. Lenny is out of the race.
Wow.
As Pylon and Razor trade positions there, you know, Pylon's got the better tire right now. Razor might be hanging on for dear life. Pylon's telling Razor, defend like a lion against Zebra Strike. He may not be able to, as Zebra Strike has fresher tires, gets a better exit, and will have DRS. But that DRS train is brutal.
It looks like it may have been coming out of the pits. I'm trying to hop on with some of the guys that are passing him, and it looks like that Lenny is
oh, as there's contact between Zebra Strike and Razor. Hopefully no damage right there. I apologize for interrupting, Buffalo. But there was slight contact, wheel to wheel. It looked like Zebra Strike had hit the side pod of Razor. It looked like a racing incident from my point of view. But it'll be interesting to see if Zebra Strike has to pit again due to any wing damage.
Yeah, we'll see if there's any damage.
And as you mentioned that, you said Lenny maybe had a mishap out of the pit lane?
Yeah, it looked like coming out of the pits, his car was a little bit mangled kind of at the left side of pit lane. I don't know if he got contact with someone else or what, but that's kind of looks like where it went down.
As Razor ended up hitting Cole as well, so Zebra Strike, you know, that little battle with Razor cost him a second of time to Pylon. Marino picks up a 3-second time penalty. But Pylon still has to pit. Zebra Strike is in the net lead right now. Ranger is in net P2. And Cole's going to come out in P... Let's see where Cole ends up. Cole ends up in P5, right in front of a little battle between Marino, Dominion, Brian Hackman, Razor, and Buzzcod. They're all having a great midfield battle there from P5 down to P10. And Marino's going to see if he can get Dominion on this straight. A little bit of a bobble. Dominion had a better exit out of that hairpin, but Dominion doesn't have DRS, and it's so powerful when the other guy doesn't have it. And Marino passes Dominion on the straight. Dominion will have DRS on this next straight, but it's imperative that he gets a good exit out of these chicanes.
Yeah, I think speaking of Zebra, if he got out of that with no damage, I think he's just in a great position here, right? Obviously, Pyle's gonna have to pit, so he's essentially in the net lead and starting to build a little gap from Ranger. And a lot of the guys behind him have to stop again anyway, so he leaves the possibility for him to take real good advantage of a safety car, get a free stop and some fresh mediums on there. And so far he's got the pace. So I think strategy wise for the next few laps, this could really work out in Zebra's favor.
No doubt about that. And so with Pylon still out right now, you got to wonder if maybe he's thinking about that medium to hard strategy because Zebra Strike has to pit one more time. And if you can, you want to make it to where he can pass you on track as opposed to in the pit. So if you stay out just a little bit longer, you go to hards. As he gets a little bit bad of an exit here, Zebra Strike's going to look to pass him on this DRS straight. But Pylon's going to be thinking about all the possible tire strategies, potentially the hards.
Yeah, it's almost like Zebra pushed Pylon into the two-stop corner, or sorry, the one-stop corner, because if Pylon had any hope of a two-stop here, it's gone with Zebra passing him there. He would lose essentially 20 seconds, and there'd be no way there'd be enough time in the race for him to get back up there. So Zebra's in a great position because he could pet and be net even and be on fresh mediums rather than fresh hards.
Yeah, and those 12-lap-old mediums are struggling right now. We just saw Zebra Strike pass him, and Ranger's going to be on his tail quite soon. And those are guys he was fighting with earlier in the race, and you got to wonder if maybe he missed his pit window.
Yeah, he could have. Yeah, it does look like Ranger's gonna not getting. Sector 3 can be a little bit hard to gain some time on if you guys are evenly matched. Although he's doing it, I wonder if he can make a move here in Sector 1 in the next lap.
As Dominion for the second lap in a row has been passed in that first chicane of Sector 3, and his tires are kind of old. They're kind of cooked. They're 12 laps old, and Brian Hackman just passed him. Razor passed him on the last lap, and he gave up quite a fight, but with 12 lap old tires, it's hard to make any moves stick.
We're starting to see the lead packs separate themselves from the group. Cooler Peter in P4, followed by Marino and Cole. There's about a 10-second gap there already.
Now, do you know the amount of time it takes for a whole pit stop to happen?
I want to say it's around 21 to 23 seconds, right? Isn't that that's usually standard? There's some time you can almost. It's a long pit lane, but you can kind of make it up underground, right? And there's no limiter under there. You can kind of make up some speed, which is interesting too on safety car pit stops. You can kind of make up some time there. So I think the potential for the safety car to decrease the pit stop time is higher on this track. But I feel like the net for a standard pit stop is probably the same, probably around 21 to 24 total seconds.
So were that to happen, Pylon would come out around Cole, around Razor. So I think a little bit behind his teammate, which, he was right next to him and at one point in front of him. So you got to wonder, we'll see once he comes into the pits where he's going to come out. You got to wonder what this strategy, how the strategy will play out for him.
Yeah, I think they kind of forced him into the one stop there, and he's staying out. He's gonna have to go to hards, unless he's trying
That's
to
what I'm thinking.
Go softs, medium to soft. If he can get to lap 17, 18, that might be tough.
If he has fresh softs and you can get to lap 19, then the softs will be on the table, and that'll be right around the time Zebra Strike pits as well. And so, if he can hold on to this, as they're already out of DRS range, they're going to be making moves. But if he can hold on to this current gap, then maybe he can go onto the softs. But I just don't know. As Rangers close the gap to Zebra Strike during that, Ranger has better pace on the medium so far. And he's gonna have DRS. It'll be interesting to see who can pull out ahead on this next DRS zone. Ranger's gonna look for it up to the inside. Zebra Strike leaves into space, but Zebra Strike just went a little further outside, so he had the speed. Ranger's losing it, had a little bit of a bubble right there as well. You know, he went for it. Cole Clemens is out of the race right now. I don't know what happened. So we got 3 DNFs. Cole, Lenny, and Snoop Francis. Zebra Strike and Ranger are fighting for P1 and P2 right now. Ranger just took a peek up the inside. Zebra Strike stayed ahead. It was nice, clean racing right there. But you got to wonder, with these guys starting to battle, if Pylon can sneak back into that DRS ranges, there's a safety car out. So this plays great for Pylon.
Yeah, it does. He's right by pit lane too. So you can see everybody's diving right in. So this is going to set up for a great finish, right? So if you're Pylon, I think you have to go on. I think everybody might have to go on hards here. What do you think?
I mean, we saw Pylon and Cooler Peter. They made it 15 and 14 laps, although it was a bit of a struggle at one point. And Pylon is actually going onto the softs with 12 laps remaining. So that is super interesting. And Pylon actually gets ahead of Zebra Strike. So Zebra Strike may have had some sort of wing damage from that earlier incident. And so Pylon is now in P2. And so what he's going to be hoping to do here during the safety car is build a big of a gap as possible with those softs. And as they die down, just pray that he has a big enough gap.
Yeah, that's why, you know, because of the 2 compound, he didn't want to go on hards because they're a tough race tire, and he couldn't go medium to medium like Ranger and Zebra could. So the tire strategy may be really tough for him, but it's kind of hard to, you know, how many positions has he? Pylon is currently net plus 16 positions. So right where he's at now has just been incredible so far.
And NBA elected to stay out, not go into the safety car on 8 lap old mediums. And I don't know. I think NBA was one of the ones who started on the mediums, and so maybe, you know, he's going to go to a medium soft strategy. But when there's a safety car, it kind of throws a wrench in that plan.
Yeah, you just hate to be in a position, even in a difficult track like this, that you're praying for a safety car, right? You kind of just want, hey, if it happens, maybe I can use it to my benefit. But it does look like, you know, unless he comes in now, he would lose a lot of track position. But yeah, it almost is like he's definitely got to stop one more time.
But we did see it. I mean, we saw it in the championship fighter today. We saw, you know, Red Bull was gambling on a safety car, and it came true. And so, you know, if he can have it for those guys, I don't see why he couldn't have it for these guys as well. But it is a gamble nonetheless.
Yeah, certainly can happen here. I think safety car and at least one more lap. I think the Haas is bringing up the rear there, and it's got a little bit of time to gain to catch up with the train. So might see a couple. I noticed too in the D3 race, OG, the safety cars were long. They were out there for a good amount of laps.
Yeah, you know, I was a culprit to part of that, and actually Haas was a culprit to another part of it, another safety car as well. Just unfortunate track positioning during the safety car and then pit stops. You know, me and the Haas, we were just super far away, opposite side of the track for a super long time, and so those safety cars last night in that D3 race were out probably longer than they should have been, just due to the unfortunate nature of the track and where it happened and all that. It looks like Mr. Robot, the Haas Mr. Robot, is coming in rather quickly. He's speeding it up. A couple of the D3 guys were taking their time. He looks like he's ready to get it on. But yeah, you're right about that. The D3 race, you know, we had some interesting things happen in terms of the safety car strategies, all that stuff.
NVA actually did come in for a pit on that lap, so now he's sitting in P12. So just about everybody on fresh tires. Looks like the oldest on the grid is Hunte in P4 on 5-lap old mediums, and Buzzgod on 3-lap old mediums. So this is kind of a brand new race here. We have an 11-lap shootout, and we'll see what happens at the restart.
Got to watch out for Pylon. You know, he's going to have the grip. He's going to have the speed on Ranger, in theory at least, with those new softs. But, you know, you got to see if Ranger can stay within that DRS range, you can just hold on to him. Zebra Strike, hold on to him. Then towards the end of the race, those last 3 or 4 laps, is severe collision. That's probably going to get removed due to stewards, but still, that does throw some some sort of thing, some weird strategy, and there's Pylon's now way down the order with this safety car, but I expect that to get removed by the stewards. If not, though, this P2 could turn into a P10 very, very, very quickly.
Yeah. I wonder too, both on fresh softs, right? Could Razor and Pylon maybe do some team tactics and see if they can maybe, DRS pull each other up a little bit to try to compete with Ranger and Zebra a little bit more?
Yeah, we got a lot of drivers on fresh softs. Dominion, Ryan Hockman, Marino, Alex as well. And so it'll be interesting to see what happens. Is they're gonna go green here? Ranger, Pylon's gonna, he took a peek at it, but Ranger still stays ahead at the first turn. Zebra strike, 3-second time penalty. So they're racking up the penalties right now. Pylon has the grip at this high-speed corner, but Ranger pulls away just a little bit. Pylon doesn't want to bend it into the wall. He knows he can get him on this straight. He knows he has the traction. And he is on his tail right now. Pylon is. Ranger gets a slightly better exit, though, and as you said, that hairpin, it's so imperative to get a good exit. Otherwise, you're sitting duck.
It is, and this is the time that Pylon needs to make the move while those softs are fresh, because they're going to go quick, right? You have just such a finite amount of time.
Oh, and there's
he almost
contact,
comes
yeah.
back to him.
You know, he took a peek right there, and he made that slight weave with under braking, and he may have not been able to slow down as fast as he wanted to. And it's lucky Ranger didn't, that back end of Ranger didn't fly out there. But he's going to look to the inside right here. And he lets it, he makes it happen. As Ranger.
That looks smooth.
Yeah. Now, if you're in the mind of Ranger or Zebra Strike right now, what are you thinking, Buffalo?
Bide my time and keep pace. Look, Ranger's also run a pretty clean race so far, right? So he's got no penalties to Pylon's 8 seconds, which we think maybe 3 seconds, right?
Yeah.
So if he can just keep up with him now while the softs are fresh, right? He knows he can maybe even make up some more time to the end of the race. So I would stay calm and just do what he's doing. At least stay in DRS range if you can.
Yeah, definitely got to stay in that DRS range. As Hunte into P7, you know, he started the restart P5, already done to P7, and with 7-lap old mediums, you know, you're starting to wonder what's going on here. You know, a lot of these guys, he might have to pit again. He may go to the end on these, but if he does pit again, you know, a lot of these guys have made their last pit stop, and so he may be going down the order depending on what his strategy is, as he's ghosted right now. So Brian Hackman is looking to go through him, and that goes to the issues in qualifying we had as well. As Pylon's already pulled an entire second gap to Ranger and Zebra Strike. So now Ranger and Zebra Strike, you know, they're enemies. But their biggest enemy right now is Pylon. And the enemy of your enemy is a friend. They're going to be trying to pull each other back and forth to stay in Pylon's range. At least during his high-speed soft stint right before he falls off this. I believe that's Josh Barnsley after a great start. You know, already down in P15. They had another instant down there in drip. You know, so far so good with the case of the drips. He hasn't DNF'd, but he's not necessarily in a great position.
Yeah, he showed some pace. You know, if we have a couple of the DNFs, he may be able to get towards the top 12. But that's disappointing. He did show some pace early on here.
And the Cooler Peter has your teammate Marino in his sights. Marino had a terrible exit. And Cooler Peter up, coming down this start-finish straightaway. He may make a move. Marino seems to have the distance right now. But Cooler Peter goes along the inside. Wow. Marino's going to have to really get on the throttle. And he does. They kind of both back out a little bit. They don't want to take anybody out. But Cooler Peter's looking to strike right now.
He's run a really quiet but really fantastic race so far today, finding himself in P6 on the same tire strategy as everybody else around him. So, you know, the idea of him in the top 5 is something that could totally be plausible.
Yeah, Marino had a better exit right there, but Cooler Peter will have the DRS, but you got to think, was it enough? It looks like it might be. It's going to be enough potentially if he can tug into the slipstream. He's going to have DRS on this next straight as well. So if he can, as there's a little bit of contact right there, hopefully no damage, he's going to need a great exit here. But Marino, I'll tell you what, showing out for the D3 guys right now. He's had some great exits out of all these difficult turns. He's had some great offensive and defensive driving.
Looks like Zebra just passed Ranger as well, starting to close the gap to Pylon himself, almost in DRS range. Ranger, however, is still in range of him.
So they're just going to be
And
going
Razor's
back and
right there
forth.
too.
Yeah, so, I mean, you got to wonder, yeah, if Pylon can just build that gap and Razor can try to get in between this and make a mess a bit for Ranger and Zebra Strike and allow Pylon to build even more of a gap.
Yeah, exactly. Just going to say that, right? A little bit of team tactics. The more that Razor can fight with Ranger and Zebra, the more gap Pylon can bring, the more cushion. Because he's going to need some cushion if he's going to get those softs to the check flag.
You know, fortunately, a couple of those laps were under safety car, but it's hard to make softs last 10 laps. You know, I think 2 of those laps were under safety car, but, you know, 10 lap softs here is kind of difficult.
Man, Peter and Marino are still locked into the same battle with NVA now joining the fray.
And NVA has had quite the race so far.
I feel like NVA has been all over the board today. You know, before he was around like 15, 16, and then he was up there at kind of P4 right before the safety car, and now he was right back out at P7.
Oh, as Marino paused for just a second, went ghost, and that allowed Cooler Peter to get ahead of him, but Marino, oh, was there contact as Marino's now out? Not out of the session, but out of that battle. He's now, you know, he's in the top 10, but he is position 10.
They went 3 wide during that chicane at the end of Sector 2. I'm not sure what the logic was for them to do that. It looked like maybe NVA was the last one there. I'm not sure. I don't want to say that right now. That was certainly some interesting racecraft there by the 3 of them.
And you got to wonder, you know, Marino, he was ghosted for just that split second. And these guys are flying around the track at 200 plus miles per hour. And Marino was ghosted. And, you know, once you decide to make a decision, you're going for it. And maybe he just unghosted at just the wrong time. That's the only explanation I can think of right now.
Yeah, certainly could be that. And he finds himself 4 seconds away from that little DRS train.
But while that was happening, Razor
sir.
got ahead of Ranger. So he's hunting down Zebra Strike right now. He's within DRS range. And they're looking to have a Mercedes or McLaren 1-2 relatively soon.
Yeah, this puts them in a great position because the 2 of them up front, you know, we know the softs are going to be hard towards the end to manage, but the 2 of them together, you know, it might make it a little easier to have some backup there on a lot of these battles.
As Prison Mike makes a move on NVA. NVA is going to have a late break. They're going to that chicane. No contact. NVA pulls out ahead. Cooler Peter. Oh, as there's contact between Prison Mike and Cooler Peter right there. As they're just scrapping right now. I think you were going to mention it earlier with Alex, NVA, and all them. But wow, they're going 3 wide. Gets pushed off the track just a little bit. Prison Mike, the winner out of that so far. But he may have done, you know, a little bit of a dirty drive move right there. But he's up into P6. NVA P7. Cooler Peter P8, Alex P9. You know, you gotta wonder if the stewards are gonna look at that, if there will be an investigation for that.
Yeah, they might. I'm not sure. Traditionally, Prism Mike's been a pretty clean driver, so I'm not sure what went on there. They may label it as a racing incident, or they may have to give it back. But something I want to point out too here, Alex has had a nice little recovery drive at the end of the safety car. He was around P16, and he finds himself now at the back of that train in P9, and he could be in position to gain even some more spaces.
Yeah, he's had a great restart, you know, as you mentioned, up into P9. And with those guys battling, it allowed him to stick in there. And then if the opportunity presents itself, he may even be able to strike, you know, if another incident like that occurs where they're off the track a little bit and he can just lunge in there and strike.
Pylon's building up that gap. Almost 2 seconds now on Zebra. And that's exactly what he needs to do. With 5 laps remaining in the race, I wonder if he's starting to feel some tire wear of the softs. We'll see if he can maintain this gap.
And is Razor going to be able to make a move onto Zebra Strike? Coming to this to the end of this final DRS zone. He's going to go to the outside. And he just barely makes it. That was a great overtake right there.
Man, these guys are bunched up really close together.
Yeah, no. I mean, all these guys, they're so fast. They're so consistent. And Josh Barnsley with the fastest lap right now, 137. But these guys, they're just so good.
Yeah, they're extremely quick around this difficult track. Looks like Alex just passed Cooler Peter and is now in DRS range of NBA.
So I mentioned Alex, you know, getting an opportunity and making the most of it. And we'll see if he can do that. See if he can make a move on NBA on this next DRS straight. As Zebra Strike is going to be looking to take his position back from Razor on this opening DRS straight. He's right on his tail, and you mentioned it just a moment ago, as I believe is that drip?
The drip? Yeah.
Case of the drips right there. As, Zebra Strike's looking to take that position back from Razor, and you mentioned a moment ago, the softs might be dying down. They're 7 laps old. And you got to hope Pylon's hoping he's built enough of a gap, because Ranger and Zebra Strike are coming.
Yeah, it did grow while Razor overtaked into P2 for a little bit. The lead did grow at one point, about 2.5 seconds, but I think Zebra may start to chip away at that. There's 4 laps to go. I don't know if he can get there.
But you got to wonder, these guys are battling each other, so it's not like, maybe if there was clean air, the mediums would be able to pace the softs, but they're battling. There's a 3-way battle going on right now, and so it's by no means easy. It's not by no means as fast as you possibly can. With that battle, they're slowing each other down, allowing Pylon to get further and further ahead.
Yeah, Razor's just built up over a second lead now on Zebra. We'll see if he can keep that going into the next lap, maybe to that DRS detection zone. While Ranger is in range of Zebra, so perhaps will they start jockeying for position 3, the McLarens can run away with it.
But you got to keep in mind, Pylon has technically 8 seconds of penalties, potentially 3. And so Razor, Zebra Strike, and Ranger are looking like your potential podium right now. And Razor and Ranger especially, are looking to build that gap. Razor is potential for the win. Ranger as well, if he can get past Zebra Strike. So 4 laps remaining. Ranger DRS on Zebra Strike. Coming into the first DRS zone. He's going on the inside. Locks up just a bit. Will make it stick for now, but Zebra Strike will have DRS for this next DRS zone. Ranger also has DRS from Razor, so he may not be able to make it happen here. And you mentioned it, Sector 3, you can lose a lot of time here. So all the drivers here have to be on their A game. As Ranger, he seems like he's turned it on just now.
Yeah, it does. It certainly. Now, I don't know if we're seeing that because maybe the softs are losing some pace or he's just shifted it into another gear, but he's looking really quick.
And with this Ranger and Razor battle, this may determine who is the winner of this race, as Pylon does have, at minimum, 3-second time penalty. And then my dark horse up into P5, Brian Hackman, on 8-lap-old softs, up into P5 ahead of Prison Mike, who's a great driver. And so he may, he's 8 seconds back from Zebra Strike, but, he's looking to close the distance.
Yeah, that's a little battle going on there, 5 and 6. And, we spoke about the top 5 in the driver's standings being so close. Pylon and Razor were 4 and 5 coming into this. And they might not be 4 and 5 after this,
nope.
Right?
Yeah, especially with several of the rivals out. Ethan Patel is out. Sid is out. A lot of these guys are out, and so this is an opportune moment for them to make it. As Ranger passes Razor on that DRS straight, 2 laps in a row, he's passing one on that DRS straight, and he's just got to hope he can hold on this one and build enough of a gap in Sector 3.
Yeah, we'll see if he can hold on. Zebra's coming to him too, and I don't know if he can hold off Zebra.
And so he's saving that. He's locking up again. Ranger, 2 lockups in a row. 2 lockups, 2 laps in a row. And he is on the medium, so it's not as big of a worry as if he's on the softs with only 3 laps to go. But you got to wonder if maybe that just little ounce of tire wear will end up costing him in the final lap.
Something to note too, Ranger and Razor a little bit low on ERS. Zebra, not so much. Maybe he's saving that up for a last couple lap push.
He definitely could be saving it up for a last, maybe, yeah, these last 2 laps. He could start to unleash. Pylon as well, he's below 10% ERS. And Zebra Strike, over 50%, so he's saving his ERS big time right now. And he's looking to get in the mix, take both of his positions back.
Yeah, that gap has gone from about 2.5 seconds between Pylon and, well, a number 2 at the time to now in DRS range. So those softs have degraded quickly, and I think we're starting to see it now.
Do you think with Razor as well, the McLaren, but the potential McLaren 1-2 could end up a McLaren 3-4?
Yeah, it could. You know, especially with the penalties. I think that's probably what they're looking at here. We'll see if Zebra can pass, and he's probably got the. Yeah, I do think that. I think with Zebra's battery charge and the mediums on the last lap, he could just be biding his time to pass at the right moment.
And with Ranger, you know Pylon has penalties, so you don't want to make any crazy moves, any potential race-ending moves right here. You want to stick to the DRS straights for the overtaking. As Pylon's weaving just a little bit, telling him, you will not get past me right here. You don't want to make anything. Don't make any dangerous moves. Don't do a Max Verstappen. Play it safe. As I say that,
Ooh.
Ranger bobbles right there. That's going to give Razor just that little extra to pounce on him. And Ranger may have thrown away an on-track victory.
I thought I was going to agree with you too at the time too. Look, pass the DRS straight if you can, but if not, just say right up to his gearbox. But now that opportunity might be gone, and I think we're going to see 3 guys within a second and a half of each other all have DRS here on the 2 zones.
Yep. And Zebra Strike right on Razor's tail as well. So, you know, Ranger and Zebra both have positions to make up. Pylon and Razor, the 2 McLarens, both fighting for their lives right now. As Razor gets a better exit than Zebra Strike out of that first little DRS zone, Razor didn't have DRS off of Ranger, and Zebra Strike's going to be able to make it stick. Pylon as well.
Ooh,
Pylon goes to the
late
outside.
braking. Contact.
While there was contact between them, Pylon stays ahead in that Razor also down into P4, so he didn't make the move stick either. The McLarens, they're fighting. The elbows are out right now. And Ranger makes his stick. He may be able, if he can hold on in Sector 3, win on track as well. Pylon in P2, Razor in P3, Zebra Strike P4. As we're coming into the last final turns of the Abu Dhabi Grand Prix for the Division 2 of the Zoom Racing League, it's Ranger. If he can hold on, he's got 2 corners remaining, 3 corners remaining. Zebra Strike looking to make a strike on Razor with 3 corners remaining. He goes up to the inside. He makes a move on Razor in the final corners of the race. And so your winner will be Ranger of the Williams Racing Team. P2 Pylon, Zebra Strike P3, Razor P4. With penalties, it switches up just a little bit. Ranger, Razor, Zebra, Pylon. Prison Mike, Pylon goes down to P5 with penalties. We expect that to change. So Prison Mike right now, P4. Ranger finishes P1 though. Amazing, amazing race.
Yeah, looking like a 2-4 for McLaren. Great team race for them. And this was great. I mean, just so much excitement here. And it did exactly what we thought it was going to do, right? It just shuffled up those top 5 places immediately. And the driver standings are going to look a little bit different tomorrow morning.
Yeah, it's going to look quite a bit different. You know, we had some big winners out of this race. Pylon had a great recovery drive. Unfortunately, penalties may have screwed him out of a win. But Ranger with an amazing drive. Razor as well. Zebra Strike with an amazing drive. And unfortunately, we had some drivers who didn't quite go where they wanted to go. Josh Barnsley with an amazing start ended up in P11. Hunte had some technical difficulties. He only ended up in P10. The AlphaTauri boys ended up, I think, last place out of the people that finished, but they both finished. So points will be awarded. Pylon definitely deserves driver of the day with the performance he put on. But, what an amazing, amazing, amazing race.
Yeah, we saw it through all levels of the field too. We talked about kind of how the standings are in, most tiers, right? And it matters so much to these drivers to go up and kind of bust out of their tier. And we saw some great performances from guys like Mike, guys like Peter, that were really able to make up some positions and come into that high middle part of the field. It was great to see.
And I'm excited. I'm looking to get some interviews going as we get Ranger P1, Razor P2, Zebra Strike P3. I'm looking forward to interviewing these guys. And if you look at the grid, the starting grid where people finish, it's all over the place. We had P5 to P1, P6 to P2, P18 to P5, so all over the place. These guys had phenomenal races today. Super, super impressive.
Yeah, they really did. NVA too, sneakily coming up there and getting a P7 out of it. And Marito must have had some unfortunate kind of incidents there in the back end. He found himself down in P13. He had the pace to compete with the top 5, so that was interesting.
I think, just a little bit of a mishap there at the end. He was having a great race up until that point, really showing out for D3. And so we're going to get these guys in for an interview, Ranger, Razor, and Zebra. And so with that, Buffalo, who would you say was your driver of the day?
Oh, it has to be Pylon. And I mean, yeah, a couple penalties at the end, and he turned into, what, P4. But there was a time where he had made up something like 16, 17 places. And I think he had the best pace, really, of anyone in the field for an extended period of time. But, of course, the consistency was there. And, man, just great race all around. That was fun to watch.
Super, super fun. All right, our first interview should be it'll probably be we're gonna pull in Ranger today. So we're gonna pull in Ranger, the race winner.
Point.
Ranger.
Oh, what up?
Hell of a race. Hell of a race. It was super, super exciting. Can I just get a little bit of info on how you're feeling right now?
Well, it's my first win, so I'm absolutely
congratulations.
ecstatic.
That's amazing.
Thank you. And I was told by my partner, NVA, that I believe that brings me on the championship lead. So we'll have to look at that. So I'm absolutely ecstatic. I almost lost it, as you saw. I almost lost it, like 2 laps to go, and that gave me a bit of the shakes. But I was happy to be able to just get back into it. Those guys raced so well. Pylon, Razor, Zebra Strike. I had to obviously constantly think about strategies. Do I go for it? Do I wait? Do I play the patient game? And I decided to play the patient game, letting Razor and Zebra battle it out over there. And eventually their tires fell out, the soft tires. I knew they weren't going to go all 10 laps top speed. So it was all about managing my tires, pacing myself, harvesting my ERS as much as possible for the end, and at some point I just switched it on. I gave it all I got, and the results paid off, so I'm really happy with it.
Yeah, amazing job. Buffalo, you got anything you want to add?
Yeah, Ranger, hey, how you doing, man? Buffalo here. Congratulations, man. First win. And yeah, with Ethan Patel not participating in today's race, you are going to lead the Division 2 driver standings. I gotta ask, we made a note, that kind of you were banking it and about to make good use of it. What was going through your head though after that safety car? You saw both McLarens on soft tires, you and Zebra both on mediums. Did you think you could win the race at that point?
I felt I did, actually. When we were behind the safety car and I saw those 2 McLarens on softs, I figured their tires were going to drop off at the very end. I knew my direct competitors were not these guys. It was Zebra Strike, and he was the main guy I was really worried of, because he was having incredible pace throughout that race, and we had a couple battles, and absolute respect for that driver. We gave each other space, and we had a lot of tight battles as well. So I just knew it. It was me versus him. I knew the McLarens were gonna have some pace. I let him go by. I didn't drain my ERS to erase Pylon or Razor when they got by. All I had to do was keep in the DRS range for a couple laps, and with 3-4 laps to go, that's when I had to turn it on.
Well, you turned it on indeed, and you saved it there. You know that little bobble right there. We were very worried. I like it. It was super intense, but you saved it, and you managed to get the win. So congrats, man.
Thank you. Yeah, a couple moments during the race, the curves and with the drivers and everything, it's easy to lose it. There's a lot of people going off track. But yeah, I had a couple close calls. Might have to change my my pants here, but all's good. Worth it for the win.
No doubt. Well, congrats on your first win, and we will see you later.
Thank you very much, boys.
Nice job, Ranger.
Thank you.
So we're gonna get in Zebra Strike, we're gonna get in Razor actually. We'll have Zebra Strike last. So Razor, what's up?
Yo, what's up, man?
So I gotta ask, you know, looking back on it now, do you still think pitting onto those softs with however many 12 laps to go was the move for you?
At the time it was. I don't regret it, but mediums I think would be the best. Yeah, but at the moment, softs I think it was the best.
I mean,
At the moment, I don't regret.
I mean, you still had a phenomenal race, a great finish.
Yeah.
It was awesome to watch you for. You guys were absolutely on another level compared to the rest of the field. You were flying out there, and so yeah, it was super impressive to watch. But I just couldn't help it. Those softs just died off at the end, and it was just
Yeah, they did. I was struggling to fight Zebra and Ranger. Congrats to Ranger, so he deserved this win after nearly breaking his wing in the wall. I saw that. Yeah, he had a nice recovery. Yeah, that was hard. I tried to do some Checo moves there, so Pylon could get a bit further. But yeah, that was hard, that was intense, and it was fun.
Really nice job, Razor, and congrats on the podium, of course. I gotta ask too. You know, Pylon was up front. Of course, he had the penalties, and he was up front for a large portion of the race. Were you guys communicating a lot? I mean, was there some team play there? You guys were both on the softs towards the end, of course, fighting with Zebra and Ranger on the mediums. Were you guys going back and forth a lot on what you could do?
Yeah, there was a lot of team play there. We were talking like every second. We just couldn't stop talking to each other. That was a really good team play there. Yeah, definitely.
Yeah, it was really fun to watch, man. That was a treat. Thank you.
Yeah,
thank you.
Great
Thanks, guys.
race, great finish.
Thank you, guys.
And for Zebra Strike, Zebra,
What's up?
well, you had a phenomenal weekend. You stuck it on pole. Unfortunately, didn't get the win, but you got a podium. How are you feeling right now?
I mean, I feel great after DNFing like over half my races.
Yep.
It feels to finally be up there at the top.
Zebra, you had great pace, man. Congratulations on the podium. I wanted to know kind of what was going through your head at the end of that race. You saw both McLarens on the softs, and then you and Ranger on the mediums. Did you think you had a shot to win at that time? What were you just trying to kind of finish in the top three, knowing that Pylon had penalties? What were you thinking?
Yeah, I mean, I was mostly focused on the top three. I got a 3-second penalty right before the safety car went out, I think, and that kind of doomed the win for me when Ranger and Razor didn't have any penalties. So I was just trying to stay with them and give them a good fight.
Well, you gave him a great fight, and you know, Buffalo said it. You showed like phenomenal pace throughout the weekend. You put it on pole by like you were on provisional pole by about like 2/10, and you stuck it on pole by about 1/10 at the very end. Do you expect this level of pace to continue to the final two races?
Well, I hope so. I feel like I've been improving all season. I mean, I think last week, what did I qualify? P3 or something like that? P2, somewhere up there. So I feel like my pace has been improving. My racecraft has definitely been improving. I definitely had the pace today. I got like what, a 5-second gap in the first stint.
Yeah, it was incredible. We were wondering if you were gonna pull a 20-second gap at one point, but unfortunately, you know, safety cars and everything brought everything back together. But your pace, especially at the beginning, was just phenomenal.
Yeah, I think I pitted for a 2-stop, and then Razor stayed out on softs for a 1-stop, and then I caught up to him, and as I was passing him, we had a little bit of contact and got minor wing damage. So that slowed me down a little bit, and then I had to fix it during that safety car pit stop, which allowed Ranger to go through. So, I mean, a little unfortunate there, but I don't think it was anything crazy, malicious, or anything like that. It was just a racing incident. So, I mean, great race from everybody. It was really, really fun.
Yeah, super fun. Buffalo, any final comments you want to add?
Great race all around, Zebra, man. It was really fun to watch your pace go around, and congratulations on the podium.
Hey, thanks, guys.
Yeah, congrats. See you later, Zebra.
See ya.
And that is it, Buffalo. We just saw a great race. You know, I haven't seen a race, you know, a four-way battle like that throughout a whole race in a long time. That was incredible.
Man, that was fun, and I feel like every team could really kind of garner something positive out of that. The Alpines too, of course, Zebra with the podium, but you know, Peter with a great race as well. They had really strong. The McLarens, of course, were up there, and you know, Prison Mike put on a great show for Alfa Romeo. It was really fun to watch. A lot of guys getting involved, a lot of action, start to finish. Just loved it.
Yeah, no, it was, you know, in the race order and the drivers' championship order, things just got mixed up a ton. I believe he said it earlier, but Ranger should be your new Division 2 leader. Pylon and Razor should be about 2 or 3 or 3 and 4 now, as they will jump Sid. But yeah, just a great race, and I'm looking forward to the next 2 weeks. I mean, if that's what we have in store for us, it's coming up to a phenomenal last 2 races.
Yeah, so Portugal next week, right? Certainly a lot different than Abu Dhabi. Maybe a little more forgiving, right? There's a little more kind of space around if you spin a race, a little less DNFs, but it's a new track, right? So people won't have the perhaps years of experience on Abu Dhabi as they do in Portugal. So curious to see how that one's turning out. Definitely different than what we've seen before, and we're looking forward to it.
Yeah, really looking forward to it. It is quite a different track than this one, but we're hoping to see some great racing regardless. I'm OG.
I'm Buffalo.
There we go. All right, we'll see y'all later. Make sure you like and subscribe. Peace.
Thanks, guys.
Well, there we go.